So interesting story about this motorcycle. Honda wanted to build something reliable and fuel efficient. So they cut a car in half to build it. Let's talk about the Honda NC750X, the motorcycle with the heart of a Honda Fit. So before we get into the weird engine stuff about this bike, and it's actually a really good engine, let's talk about the fact that Honda built a motorcycle that is practically invisible to the human eye, which is this bike. I've never seen one on the road. I've never seen anyone drive one. And anytime I go into a Honda dealership, I've never seen one sitting in a showroom floor, except they've sold thousands of them. How did Honda accomplish that? And ask yourself the same question. Have you ever heard or seen the 700 or 750 NC? It's kind of that bike that kind of hides behind the radar. And for some reason, it's just completely overshadowed by the Goldwing, by the Rebel, by the Africa Twin, and by the CBR. Even though no one's talking about them, I've always enjoyed them, and I thought it was kind of a really undervalued, underestimated motorcycle that Honda's made. They're fun, they're sporty, they're extremely comfortable. It's really hard not to like. And it's got some features on this motorcycle that no other motorcycle on the market has, which I'm gonna tell you about in a second. Now, you might be wondering, when did this new bike come out? Well, it's not that new. They've actually been making the NC since 2012, and it's kept the same general look since then. Now, they've had a few upgrades, but generally, you can tell it's an NC bike. And I gotta say that this is probably the least intimidating motorcycle you could possibly own. Think about this. Let's say your mom's got a rule for you and your brothers, and the rule is, no, you can't own a motorcycle while you live in the house. You come home with a CBR 600, and your mom's like, no, you cannot. We have a rule, no motorcycles in the house. And you say, but Mom, what about my brother? He has an NC750X. What's the response gonna be? Oh, that doesn't count. It's not really a motorcycle. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe the untrained eye will be like, oh, you have a sport bike. But I know what a sport bike looks like. It's clearly not a sport bike. It just doesn't fit in any real category. But something about it is very unintimidating looking, which for a lot of people might be the bike for you. And honestly, for me, it's probably the bike for me. Because if you had a handful of motorcycles in your garage, you had a Harley, you had a sport bike, you had an adventure bike, and you had one of these in there, I could almost guarantee you that over the next couple months, this would become your go-to bike for whatever you're looking to do. One, it's a really fun bike. It's fun, it's sporty feeling, it's easy to ride, feels really light on your hands and on your legs, but it's got a very low center of gravity. Now, a couple reasons for the low center of gravity, but the biggest one is right here. Pop open what you think is a tank, that's not the tank. It's actually a ginormous crevice that you could put a helmet, you put a full-size helmet inside there. That's because the tank is actually hidden down here. You fill it up right here, but it's all under the seat. So instead of 50 pounds being above your legs, now it's below your butt. That makes a big difference. Now, it's not the first company to do that. A lot of motorcycle brands have been putting their tanks below the seat and having a fake tank up here, but almost none of them have been utilizing this extra space up there. Now, since 2012, there's been a few redesigns on this motorcycle, and the 2025 model is the latest. So don't expect any changes to this bike in 2026, other than maybe color options. But as of right now, this thing just comes in white. Now, part of the new refresh that's new in 2025 is the new headlight, the brighter headlight, a new display, the same one that they put on the Transalp and the Hornet, and they upgraded the brakes. So Honda categorizes this bike as in their adventure bike category. I don't actually know why they do that. It kind of really doesn't make any sense. Because if you look at it, I mean, it doesn't have a lot of suspension travel. I think it's 4.6 inches. They've got tires that say trail on them. Maybe that's something. There's not really a skid plate. That's just plastic. So I think what they mean by adventure bike is this can do gravel roads. As we've seen on the internet, you can modify any motorcycle, put some knobby tires on it, and change the suspension, and you're basically a dirt bike, from Hayabusa to Goldwing. But nothing about this bike screams adventure. I think they didn't know what category to put it in, or the adventure bike category was hotter than the street bike category, so they're like, let's squeeze it in that category. If it were me, I'd probably put it in just the normal street bike category. I think that's how most people are gonna use this bike. Not that dissimilar from the Kawasaki Versus, which is also a really fun bike, parallel twin, and kind of fills in that weird gap between street bike and adventure bike, but no one's doing any adventure things on them. They're all doing all street stuff. But if you wanted to, you probably could. Both really fun bikes. Now this bike comes in at an MSRP at $94,999, which is, you get that's a lot of bike for less than $10,000. But if you want to earn some money, that brings me on to our sponsor of this video, that is Upside. What's Upside? That's a good question. Now I know you've probably heard about Upside from a bunch of other YouTube and podcasts and stuff like that. I downloaded it, I actually use it. And what it does is it gives you the ability to earn money on things that you normally buy. Gas, groceries, and food. 6% per gallon at the Shell. The racetrack has 15 cents per gallon. Let me show you exactly how it works. Let's go put gas in this thing right now. So using the app to earn money is super easy. All you gotta do is pump up your bike, claim the offer, pay with your card like normal, and that's it. They'll send the money right back to you. They have almost 100,000 locations that are participating. So you can earn money almost anywhere. It's cash back. It's not points that you're not gonna use or gonna expire. It's just actual cold hard cash right into your account. And you can use it on not just gas, but also food and dining. Five Guys is participating. They're gonna give us 33% cash back of our Five Guys order. Users of the app are earning over $1 million of cash back every single week. And as a total, Upside is giving back over $1 billion to its users. So download the app and use promo code Srkcycles to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank of gas being used with the app. That's an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank of gas using promo code Srkcycles. Let's go back to the studio, I'll show you more about this bike. So let's talk about the engine and then we'll get to the elephant in the room. This is a 745cc parallel twin, and you can see they got the angle pretty low. Also bringing center of gravity down. Now this motorcycle was made for efficiency and durability, so it's not making tons of power, but it's still 58 horsepower, which is still plenty of power to cruise on the highway or exceed the speed limit if you want to, or have a ton of fun on the road. And a lot of times Honda is never putting the biggest horsepower numbers on paper, but generally they end up making some of the fastest bikes. So they have a better way of implementing that power and creating a better full motorcycle that makes you being able to use the power better than some other companies do. So the power comes from the engine through a 6-speed DCT transmission, a dual clutch transmission, and then go through a chain drive and then to a 160 rear tire, which, you know, tires on this thing are gonna be pretty reasonable. But elephant in the room, the DCT. Honda has recently, in the past couple of years, released a E-clutch. And I was thinking that Honda was kind of going the E-clutch route because it gives you both options. You can run it just like a manual if you want to, or turn the E-clutch on and it electronically does the clutch. So now it's kind of like an automatic. However, Honda is still going with the DCT. Now Honda's been doing DCT since I think 2007. They have perfected the DCT transmission. I like it, it's a good transmission, but the fact that you could only get this bike in a DCT is kind of interesting to me because I still like the option of a manual transmission. But Honda and their marketing guys, I guess they figured out if you want a manual transmission, they have plenty of other bikes. If you want a DCT, this is the one to get. Also, I think the E-clutch is a pretty interesting option and a good option for a lot of people. Let's go back to the story that I started earlier about cutting a car in half and making this. Now, obviously it's not that simple. If you go to the part numbers, they share the same pistons, they share the same valves, they share the same piston rings. So a lot of things are actually the same actual part. You can pull parts out of your car and put them into this bike. Now, why would you do that? I don't really know, but it's interesting. Now, why would Honda do that? Now, Honda did that because they were able to save a lot of money on research and design. Take something you've already made, take something you've already proven to be reliable, move some stuff around, stick it in a motorcycle. I wish more car companies would do stuff like that because they've been tested even farther than what motorcycles are generally tested for. So, I mean, you could imagine if the car can do 300,000 miles, the motorcycle is significantly lighter, moving much less weight. Why couldn't this do 500,000 miles if you were willing to do it? Now, the other thing about this bike is because it's a DCT, you can't leave it in gear. So you have this extra funny looking e-brake. First time I had one of these, it took me forever to figure out how to get the e-brake off. I was pushing it and moving it, and there's actually a button over here that pops out red. You gotta pull it back, and that's how you release it. But it's kind of, you know, I've been riding bikes my whole life, never seen an e-brake on a bike until I had one of these Honda DCTs. The other thing I thought about was there's normally space, a little bit of storage back here to store stuff, your ID card and things like that. But then I was like, well, I guess I don't need a space. I've got significantly more space up here. And to show you how big this thing is, I mean, here's a full-size helmet. hold up, this way. Not that way. That way. That's how you put, not that way. That's how you put a full-size helmet. It only goes in one way. You know, one of the reasons why I like this bike, I think a lot of people would too, is because when you ride a sportier bike like this, you have no place to store anything. You have to wear a backpack, which wearing a backpack on a bike is, I don't know, kind of sucks. You don't want to put saddlebags on it. You don't want to put a rack on the back. It all looks dumb. You want to keep it really cool and sporty looking. It eliminates you from, you know, you're riding your bike home from work, your wife gives you a call, hey, can you grab a gallon of milk? You can't do it. Here you can. You can put milk, eggs, 20 Chick-fil-A sandwiches. You can probably fold a pizza box in there. A lot of cool things you put in there, but it makes the thing that much more handier. I mean, honestly, this is more trunk space than some supercars have. So when it comes to ergonomics of the bike, you know it's got dirt bike style handlebars. So we're up here. Kickstand up. So we're up here instead of being down here. So all the weight is just on your seat and let your arms just kind of rest and do the controls, which makes this thing really fun to ride, but very comfortable. You can ride this, you can ride a bike like this for, you know, 1,000 miles a day for days at a time. It's just, you know, the most comfortable way to sit. Not that unsimilar from like an Africa Twin or the Goldwing or anything like that. So while it does have Showa forks on the front and the rear, they're not adjustable. Let's go put some gas in this thing, and then we're gonna talk about this bike a little bit more. All right, guys, and all this fun riding has got me reminded of the verse of the day. Proverbs 12:25. Anxiety in a man's heart weighs him down, but a good word makes him glad. So the first thing you notice is these bikes will start in neutral. You won't go anywhere. No shifter. Pop into gear. Once you get the bike in gear, and after riding it for a couple minutes, you realize, oh, it shifts when you would probably shift, or possibly smoother or even a better time when you might shift. Downshifts, and it's smooth. So you might say like, oh man, automatic bike, it's dumb. I hate it. There's a lot of reasons for it. Some people just, it's easier. This might get more people into riding motorcycle. They don't want to learn how to shift. That's fine. I think for normal street riding, it's cool, but there's also a lot of situations where you might have a limited function in your left foot or limited function in your left hand. That this kind of makes a perfect bike for you. But enough of talking about the automatic and the DCT. Let's talk about how much fun this bike is. It definitely has a lot of get up and go on it. But if you don't like the way it's shifting, you're like, oh, it's shifting too late. I mean, if you're getting on it, it's gonna shift at the red line. However, if you're like, no, I want all control, well, they got an option for that. Just gotta figure out how to do it. All right, so right here on your left hand, trigger finger up here, this is upshift, and it won't upshift when it doesn't think you should upshift. So you can't be like fifth gear, no RPMs. They consider that like dangerous for the bike. But it will let you downshift. So we're in fourth, instant. Now it's not like a car. You know, there's some vehicles that you're able to control the gears, but there's very limited control, and when you do shift it, there's a big delay. Watch this. I'm gonna press it. 4. This is instant. The dual clutch transmission, it's what like the supercars are running. It's an instant shift. So I wanna pass. I want more of a passing gear. Bam, throw it down, and then if I don't want to shift anymore, it's gonna shift itself. In terms of comfortability, this is great. I'm comfortable. That little windshield, I'm not getting any like turbulence or buffeting on top of my head. My head's not shaking around, so it's good for me, but that might be different for you, depending if you're shorter or taller. But for me, it feels pretty good. But on the highway, we're cruising 60 miles an hour. I think the speed limit's a little higher than this. Let's go to the speed limit. And bike's in 6th gear, 4,000 RPMs. It's half of what the, it's got plenty of life. I bet the thing has a top speed of 120. And if, let's say I needed to. Let's say I'm sitting here and I'm big truck on the way or a wide load and I want to pass them. I can downshift and I can get out of the way. So it's not gonna wheelie on you without you wanting. Actually, it might even not be possible to wheelie on this bike because you can't clutch it, which might be a frustration for a lot of people. Where this bike really shines is going to be the back roads and just pulling in out of corners and just really enjoying it in that way. And then just, you know, the same thing you do with every bike. Just you get to see the God's beautiful earth and the places that you live in. Now, you got the infotainment center. This is new for this year. It's bright. I can see all the things I need. It's not the coolest looking infotainment center. You know, a lot of these motorcycle companies are making really cool looking fancy infotainment centers. You can almost watch a movie on them, and almost the intro when you turn the bike on almost is a movie. They decided to keep it simple. Probably, maybe part of that is just the fact that it's a cheaper bike. Maybe that's what they were going for. I don't think it's that much more expensive to make the infotainment center cool looking. Phones are cheap. Everything's cheap these days. But I don't hate it. For me, it's not a deal breaker. I don't buy a vehicle or a motorcycle because the infotainment center. I buy it because the way it runs. And actually, in a lot of ways, I do like a simple dash, because I want to buy something that's going to last me a little while. And in my mind, the simpler, the less likely it is to fail. If you were going to ask me to put this in a category of entry level to expert rider, this is going to be an entry level bike. You know, depending on what you want to do, this could get, you know, an advanced rider. It's going to have fun in it, but chances are he's going to want a little bit more. You don't get really good at riding motorcycles and then buy a motorcycle that's going to limit you to what you want to do. I want to be able to do a wheelie. I want to be able to accelerate in 3 seconds to 60. I want to be able to go very fast. Could I have fun with it? Could me and my buddies all buy these bikes and have a blast? 100%, absolutely. But I would put this bike in the entry level category. One, because it's DCT, and two, I think it just fits it. I think it's not a very heavy bike. I think any adult that's looking to get in to ride in or hasn't ridden in a long time, like, yeah, I want a motorcycle. The bike looks cool. It looks fun. That accomplishes the things that I want to do with a bike. I think it's a perfect bike for a lot of people. All right, I'm going to do a 0 to 60 real quick. 1, 2, 3, go. That's not bad. It's not bad. It's not a rocket. It's not pulling your arms off. You're not falling off the bike. It's not trying to do a wheelie or anything like that. But it's probably quicker than your wife's minivan. Now Honda, and I think in the 70s or 80s, they made a bike called the Honda Matic. I don't know how that was accomplishing the automatic bike. And then there was a company that tried to make automatic, like, V-twin, you know, cruiser style bikes, and an American company, and it was real goofy looking. I forget what they were called. But then Honda really just kind of dialed in, and they're like, we are going to be the only company to make an automatic motorcycle that's gasoline powered. And the earliest bike that I remember where I'm like, man, they made it, and that was in, like, I think 2007, and that was with the VFR. And the VFR 1200 is a beautiful bike. It's an amazing bike, and it came in DCT and manual.
And I remember riding one of those maybe like 10 years later. I'm like, man, Honda figured it out. And they've just continued to, you know, improve it and keep it going. So I think it's a cool niche that Honda's hitting. I'm glad someone's hitting it. Do I think it's going to be the trend of like the aero bikes are going automatic? No, I don't think so at all. I think that's the fun thing about motorcycles, is that it's not, in many ways, it's not going the way of the automobile, where all cars are going automatic. It's just, I don't see it happening. And I don't really see it going the way of the electric, where, you know, there was a time where all the manufacturers were saying, oh, we're going in 10 years, we're going to be all electric, which actually I think people are going back on. All right, guys, enjoy this bike. Super fun. We'll see you guys next time. Don't forget, watch this next video. And remember, it's not what you're riding, but where you're going.